I would like to introduce you Frank Nielsen. Frank Nielsen is Associate Professor at the Department of Biological Sciences, University of Bergen. Frank and his team have made significant contributions to the study of Lepiophilus and salmon lice, and focusing mainly on aquaculture, genetics, disease management, and marine environmental studies. So he will give us a talk now about salmon louse. I hope you can join it. For yours, Frank.
Thank you. Let's see how this works. Yeah, so I'm from University of Bergen in Norway, and I was a couple of years ago, and it was raining then, and it's raining now. So it seems to be I'm bringing the rain from Bergen to Porto at least two times. So there must be something special here, I think. Yeah, no, this is working. So I've been working with salmon louse for a long time now. I almost not remember how long, but more than 25 years, and we have studied a lot of different things in the salmon louse, of course. And I'm trying to wrap this into something that may be useful for you as well. Even this is a parasite on salmonids, which is not what you are producing mostly here, but I think there is a lot of issues to be learned independent of what species you are working with, and I think this parasite can show you that. So every year our veterinary institute is giving out a report called the Fish Health Report, where they summarize a number of health issue and in Norwegian fish farming, and they have a questionnaire for the fish health people, where they ask what problem do you think are the most significant one in the industry, and this is the results from the 2023 questionnaire, and there are a couple of things that is standing or 3 columns that really standing out here, and one of them is non-medical treatment of salmon louse. This is the high curve here, and it is causing a range of different problems, both welfare, mortality, and poor growth. And the second one is complex or gill disease that will also be covered in this talk. And the third large column is due to bacterial infection that is causing wounds, the Moritella viscosa. And then there are a number of other less high columns there, but also significant. So before we go dig into this issue, I'd just like to have a very brief history of the aquaculture in Norway. And this is just to show you the main topics in my talk. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what a salmon louse is, and how it's controlled, and what welfare issue this control actually cause to the industry. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, so the beginning is a while ago, since the first salmonids were hatched and produced in Norway. So started in the mid-60s. Actually, my grandfather was one of the first starting with production of, or among the first starting with production of rainbow trout and then Atlantic salmons in the 60s. And it was very small scale, of course. It started to grow slowly in the 70s, and then it turned into something big at the end. And if you look at how the farms were constructed then, there was small, tiny cages with maybe a couple of hundred fish in. My mother told me that I was around 2-3 years. First time I fell into one of these cages was I was trying to feed the salmon with a very small, let's say, a spoon, but they managed to get me back up again. And So I kind of have followed some of this development as I grew up and working on our family business there, the farm, and saw how it grew. There was a lot of manual labor in the beginning, and you were shuffling food into the small cages, and you were also manually taking the fish out of the cages when you were slaughtering them. And then at one point this started to really take off, and around 1990 we produced more than 150,000 tons of salmon in Norway, and 30 years later we produced 1.4 million tons of Atlantic salmon in Norway. So it has been a huge growth of the industry, and there has been a number of challenges following this development. And this is a typical farm today. These cages are huge. They may be around up to 100,000 cubic meter of water inside one of these cages. So it does look big when you look at them from the surface, but what's beneath the surface is just enormous. And they put a limit. You can now have 200,000 salmon in each of these cages, and I think this is a typical sized farm with 10 cages. So you have 2 million salmon in this, and you have farms that may be even bigger, of course. So there's a lot of fish. And now most of what you are doing now is automatic. Feeding system and surveillance, and there's a lot of handling that has been removed from the industry, and a lot of this has been moved to the support or supply industry. So there are specialized companies serving these farms with a lot of different things, and the supply industry has grown a lot as well. So if we look at the production increase in Norway, it started very low, of course, and there has been a couple of milestones that have kind of pushed the industry through some of the bottlenecks. So if we go back in the 1970s, when you produced mostly rainbow trout and a little bit of salmon, in the summertime, you had huge problem with mainly one disease that was concerning everyone, and that was vibriosis. And I remember in the warm time, we just had one antibiotic treatment after the other one. And of course that was a huge problem. But luckily, the salmon can be vaccinated, at least from bacterial pathogens, and the occurrence of these bacterial vaccine, firstly against vibriosis, was a milestone, I would say, when it was possible to do that. And then the other disease popped up when you remove the main one then, and then you have cold water vibriosis, which also was kind of easy to control with vaccines. A little bit later, we imported another bacterial disease from most likely Scotland, which was furunculosis, and that was more difficult to control or develop a vaccine. But in the early mid 1990s, oil-based vaccine were developed and removed the problem on mortality with furunculosis, and that really made the industry grow a lot. I would say that was kind of a big change. And another important thing for facilitating the growth was that in 1999, the first highly efficient in-food anti-sea lice medicine was put to the market. The emamectin benzoate, or slice, were introduced, and it meant that you had a easy way to control the salmon louse. It was efficient against all the parasitic developmental stages. So one cure took all the developmental stages, and that led changed the lice treatment from doing bath treatment, where you had to bath the fish, to something that you just could add to the feed. And that made the size of the cage grow a lot. And that kind of also facilitated the big cages you see today. They may have come anyway, but the change occurred with the introduction, or shortly after the introduction of the slice during the early 2000s. And another important milestone that kind of was not a good one was a major resistance development against the available anti-sea lice medicine that started in emerging around 2007 and 2008. And dispersed throughout the Norwegian coastline during the next few years. And then we were out of good medical treatment, and new tools had to be developed. And then around 2015, 16, 17, the non-medical treatment started to take over. I will show a little bit more detail on that. And shortly after that, the production growth flattened out, leveled off. So after that, it's not been the same type of growth in the industry as it was before. And there was an ambition from the government in Norway to produce 5 million tons of salmon by 2030, I think. And I don't think that will be achieved unless you can handle one of the current main problem, which is related to salmon louse infections. That's one of the main things putting constraint on the growth now. So what is this parasite that we have barely mentioned here? As you probably understand by now, this is a very expensive parasite, and there are various estimates of how much this is costing the industry. From estimate on how much per kilo, maybe €1 per kilo has been suggested. And if it's €1 per kilo, it will be around 1.5 billion euros altogether in Norway. But it's kind of difficult to calculate those numbers. It is a huge problem in terms of money and in terms of lack of growth and other things. So this is of course a very nice parasite. You see two females here and another lice here. This red line in the middle here is the intestine that is filled up with blood from the. Can you see this marker? You can see. Maybe I have to point to that direction. I see it on the screen, but not on the. So this is the intestine of the lice filled with blood from the host. You see also these structures here, which is the egg strings. They are filled with eggs. They are stacked like coins on top of each other, so they are very densely packed with eggs. And this is a parasite that only affects salmonids. There are many similar parasites infecting a variety of different fish species, and some of them are problematic. In the North Atlantic, there are two common species on salmonids. It's the Leptoterus salmonis, the salmon louse, and then Iscalicus elongatus, which is a generalist occurring on many different fish species, but it's also infecting salmonids and cause some issues. Of course, parasites typically have complex life cycles or many different developmental stages, and that's also the case for the salmon louse. This adult female here is about 1 centimeter long, and these early larval stages are less than a millimeter long. So they are small when they are off the host, and then they have a quite impressive increase in size during their lifetime. The males are smaller than the female, they grow quicker and reach adult stage before the female when they are infected at the same time. Again, here you see this red line, which is blood that the lice are feeding from the host. They are also feeding on the skin and mucus, but typically in adult female particularly, but also some of the other states you see blood in that line. More like a sketchy type of life cycle. The females, they can live for a very long time, at least 1.5 years in the laboratory, and probably longer also. And they are producing eggs throughout their life. And they probably only need to be fertilized one time, because they can store the sperm inside them and use it for continuous production of eggs that are released every 10 days at 10 degrees. So they have a set of very specialized dispersal life stages, this parasite. It's called the nucleus 1 and nucleus 2, and then the infectious copropodate state that are released to the environment or drifting with the currents and searching or waiting for a right host to occur, and then that they can infect. And after infection, they go through a series of developmental stages, these attached Charlemagne stages. You have a frontal filament that glue them directly to the surface of the fish, typically a scale or a bone structure, and they are permanently attached until they reach the pre-adult stage. Then you can also separate them into male and female easily at this stage, and they are moving now over a larger surface of the host and making a larger impact of the host. So this is a life cycle that is adapted to a low host density. This parasite evolved as a parasite on wild salmonids that were migrating at the high Norwegian Sea with a very low host density, very few hosts. So this particular way of reproducing is an adaptation to that. And of course, one of the things that really has been changing along the Norwegian coastline during the history of aquaculture, or salmon aquaculture, is the host density. So today we have about 400 million or maybe 500 million Atlantic salmon in the sea throughout the year. And the biggest bottleneck for this parasite, because a low host density, has been solved for it. So it means that the chance for a larva to infect the host is many 100 times higher than it was before. So many more of these larvae will find a host than they will find a farmed host in most cases, because they are everywhere. So this is like probably one of the reasons why this has become such an issue in salmon aquaculture. And another thing is that when these stages go from these small sessile Charlemagne stage to the mobile pre-adult, there is a quite sharp increase in violence. So the damage these larvae inflict on the host are quite different from what these pre-adult mobile stages can do. And we have seen when you do infection trials, if you have Charlemagne stages on the fish will be destroyed quickly if you, or it can be destroyed. I will show you a little bit more of that in a minute. So this female, when they are attached to the host, carrying fertilized egg strings, they will hatch now and then, and if these lice are on the back of our migrating salmon, they will disperse it over a big area. That is one of the strategies that were developed in the origin, this release batches of larvae while the hosts are migrating over huge distances, make sure that the larva will find something at the end of the day. It could be one generation of these is often not successful. And they're doing the same on the farmed fish, of course. So if you have an adult female on a farmed salmon, and there is about 10 degrees in the sea, every 10 days they will release a bunch of infectious larvae or nuclear larvae that eventually develop into the coprolites that are able to infect the host. This is just to show you this small tiny larva, and this is an enlargement of one of these, the coprolite, the infectious stage, that are able to be transported over large distances. They know when to settle on the right host. They are able to recognize the right host by a set of chemical and mechanical clues, and then they will continue growth and development on the fish. They are not feeding when they are on the larval stages, so they are surviving on the yolk provided by the female, meaning that they can only survive for a certain period of time before they have to find a host or die. That is temperature dependent development. So this is an example of some of these sessile columnus larvae on a fin of the salmon. You see one here. You see one here. You see the eyes of the parasite. You can see that this is the point where they are attached. They attach to fins or scales or the skin, but the filament has to glue to a solid structure really. This filament restricts the feeding area, and it also restricts how much of an impact they can have on the host because of each single larva. So this is just a drawings here, which should be in this area probably, but it's a small feeding area, and you can see a local response in the salmon underneath each larva. Just an example here of a couple of these immune markers. If you compare the area beneath the louse, you get a clear response. If you take an area without louse, there is basically no response for a number of these markers. So there is a triggering of something underneath the parasite, but not sufficient to remove the parasite from Atlantic salmon. On the Pacific salmon, there are also lice, and there are a couple of species that are more or less resistant to salmon louse, and you see a much stronger response in at least the coral salmon, for instance, where it's a really strong inflammatory or epithelial response towards the parasite, more or less suffocating the larva, and you will have very few Chalmers 2 or adult lice on these fish. Also on the pink salmon, there is a similar type of rejection, but the mechanism is probably different. The mobile stage, as I said, they have an increased virulence. There we see a cluster of adult females on the salmon, and one of the things that you typically see here is there are small spots of hemorrhoids, which are places where the female has penetrated the epithelial and actually are feeding on blood. You see that also in the intestine of the lice that have been filled up with blood, and this is one of the things that you will see on both pre-adult and adult lice, that they are moving around and causing larger impact. And also there is a local response in these stages, maybe more of a systemic response also, but you see the same, a little bit of the same here, that beneath where you have an infection, either if it is scale or skin or the fins, you see a clear response compared to the uninfected area. And also there is a difference between the different states how strong this response is. But still, the lice will survive this response. So, the damage these lice are causing is dependent on the number of lice. I also said that there is a switch in virulence when they reach the mobile stage. So if you have too many lice per fish, you can get really heavy damage. If you go back in time, in the early days, when you saw this grayish area on the back of the fish, this was the trigger when you started delousing in the 1990s and before that. Today, you will not see anything of this in the farmed fish at all, because you will delouse at different levels. But if you leave the fish untreated and it accumulates lice, they will graze, particularly on the back of the fish, typically on head area where there are no scales, all the way down to the skulls. And fish will die of this, mostly due to also regulatory breakdown, if you have heavy infections. So this is one of the problem here, that this parasite actually can lead to mortality, and there has been suggested that if you reach a level of 0.2 to 0.3 lice per gram fish, you may that may be the lethal limit, particularly on small fish. The limit on larger fish probably lower. This translates into 200-300 lice on a 1 kilogram salmon. And if you have that much lice on a 1 kilogram salmon, when they are pre-adult, that will be dead, for sure. So one of the consequences that was seen in the particularly early 1990s, that was seen environmental impact in the way that wild salmon got high infection levels of salmon louse. And this was linked to salmon farms. And one of the things you saw was that the sea trout that was supposed to be in the sea returned back to the river mouth and stood in the fresh water to try to delouse itself. And these are pictures of sea trout. You see them are actually loaded with lice on the back. Pictures taken in the river outlet. They're going back to try to recover from the infection, or at least ease the osmoregulatory problem. So there was clear evidence that this had some environmental impact. Lice larvae originating from farms could have an impact on the wild salmonids. And NOAA has a particular responsibility to take care of the Atlantic salmon. So it was not okay to kill down the wild Atlantic salmon. And this has been causing a huge impact on how you control this parasite. And you saw that there is so strong evidence that there is a link between the lice released by the farm and the environment that this has shaped how you control this parasite today. So that has resulted in a number of things. A couple of them are regulatory issue. So more than 20 years ago, they established something I can translate that into the salmon lice law, which is a regulation for how much lice you can have on farmed fish before you have to do treatment. Before you have to do delousing. So this limit has changed a bit over time, but the current limit, which has been there for about 15 years now, I think, is 0.0 female lice per farmed fish. Means that every second farmed fish are allowed to have adult female lice. That sounds very little lice. That's the first impression. But if you multiply 0.5 with, let's say, 400 or 500 million salmon, the number is quite different. And we know that these female lice can produce maybe 50 to 100 larvae per day on average. Then this production of sea lice is quite astronomical, I think. But this is the limit that the farms has to follow. So this regulation is say something about when you have to treat, how often you have to count lice to find out how many lice you have. It also says something about coordinated efforts and operational plans for the farms. And also during the very vulnerable time of the year when the wild salmon smolt is migrating out of the rivers, this limit is put even further down to 0.2 lice per farm fish. And more, there is another set of regulation that has been introduced more recently. It's called the traffic light system. I don't know if you have heard about it, but this is a tool that the government established to regulate growth in the industry. They want to have environmental or other indicators that is regulating how much the industry can grow and where it can grow, or it can grow same in different areas of Norway. So this was introduced in 2017, and today the salmon lice is the only indicator, and the indicator tells something about how much lice you are allowed to have in certain regions of Norway before you have to do something. And again, it is aimed to reduce the effect on the wild fish. And it's enforced at the regional level. So they have divided Norway into 13 production zones, and every of these zones are regulated based on how much wild salmon smolt lice from farmed Atlantic salmon is causing. So if you have below 10% mortality, lice-induced mortality on wild Atlantic salmon, that region are allowed to increase their production. If it is between, you cannot grow anymore, and if you are over 30%, the production has to be decreased by 6%. Yeah.
Just a small question: how they manage to control the mortality of wild salmon smolt?
This is a tricky thing, to be honest. So the authorities have set up a system. There is an expert group that do an assessment every year for the impact of sea lice on the migratory smolt. So we are using the data from that all the farmers has to give to the authorities about how much lice they have. They have to report that every week, basically. And those data are used to model lice production and dispersal of lice. There is a monitoring program aiming at monitoring what kind of impact lice is having on the wild Atlantic post-smolt, migratory smolt. And there is some surveillance program in some of the rivers to follow the smolt and such. So there is quite a big system that is in work to try to give the authorities the advice for how many smolt are dying in this production area. And there has been a lot of issues related to this system, I can tell you. It has been pulled to, the authorities or the government has been sued by the farmers all the way to the Supreme Court. They lost. So this system is actually in work. And I think the authorities need some kind of tool to regulate our industry. They have to decide, this is politically decided, which area that at the end of the day will be red, yellow, or green. We say that, okay, here we have we have reached the impact that environmental impact that industry can have on the environment, and we will decrease production. Most of the production zones that are in green, so they can grow. So it's also saying where you can actually put growth in the industry. Of course, those that are in green are happy. Those that are in red are not that happy, of course. But this is yeah. So this is the latest coloration by the authorities. So you see that there are 2 production zones that are in red, 3 and 4. There are 5 that are in yellow, and then there are 6 that are in green, which means that you're allowed to grow in this area and this area. So what you're doing here is that you're treating the fish with low lice level, with low damage of the parasite, to reduce the impact on the environment, basically. And of course, a quite valid question when you're talking about fish health and welfare is, how is this affecting the host? I mean, not the wild fish, but actually the farmer fish. What are we doing here? Is that okay? And do we have the right tools to do this type of control today? So the rest of the talk would be about that. And instruction zones. And these are from 2012 to 2023. So for instance, here in production zone 3, in 2020, they were treating for salmon lice 8 weeks per year. 8 weeks treatment weeks. And then you see that there are different color on these columns, and it's about what kind of methods you're using for controlling the lice. The gray one is the medical treatment, and the other one are non-medical treatment. And as you see, there is a very sharp shift in what you use for treatment here around 2016, 2017, and go from majority of medical treatment to a majority of non-medical treatment. But you see there is a rather big difference in treatment efforts from the different zones, and production zone 1 and 13 are not included because they are basically not treating them. It's so little treatment that you wouldn't see anything on this graph. We'll come a little bit back to this. So of course, if you remember, production zone 3 and 4 were red on the last slide, and they are among those zones that really are putting a lot of effort in treatment as well. So when we go back to this figure now with this background, it is possible to understand why this non-medical treatment column is really high on this viewed by the fish health people in Norway, because sea lice control is such a big deal, and the treatment in itself is creating a problem. And another thing that has got a lot of attention is the amount of mortality in the farms. So in 2023, there was a record high mortality of 65 million salmon in the marine base. That's a lot of salmon, and it is about maybe 20% of the fish, depending a little bit on how you count this. But this is also causing a lot of attention in the media and among the public that you are losing this much fish. I mean, of course, no one wants to lose this fish, nor the farmer, no one wants to lose it. So what about welfare then, and what is fish welfare? Tom will dig into this a lot more, but just to try to at least some of the things that I come across me when I was thinking about this recently. There are a number of definitions of this, and there was a fish welfare initiative that has been established, and they have come up with some definitions and some thought about this, and I thought they were kind of okay, so I will share some of them with you. I mean, generally there are like the feeling-based definition of welfare. And you have a function-based definition, and then you have these nature-based definitions that are more or less the old type of definitions here. And they are more or less good to describe what we think or what you may imagine as welfare is. But if you turn this around and look at the freedoms approach and see what kind of things that would cause bad welfare, you can say that the fish should be free from hunger and thirst. I mean, it should be good condition for, I mean, the environment should be good, free from pain, injury, and disease, of course, be able to express normal behavior, be able to not have any fear or distress, if you like. It sounds quite good, but there are some issue with that if you think that the perfect welfare will be a wild animal. And of course, there will be some challenges during the challenge of that individual during life. So this may not be covering everything either. Then they introduced this allostasis type of term, but it is more like an adaptive or dynamic type of thing. This stress and all these things, everything will not be good always, but they should be able to adapt to this, to the changes, even if they are good or bad. That's the kind of the idea by this allostasis thing here. And how they put it is that if you have too little stimulation, it's not good. If you have too much, it's not good that either. So you should be somewhere in between, where you have a decent interaction with the environment and challenge and environmental variability and such. And one of the things that we ended up with in this fish welfare initiative was to come up with a definition like this. One of the things that we clearly can say is that if you have pain, injuries or damage or disease, that is clearly a sign of that the welfare is not good or have not been good. And then there is a more of a blurry world of the other things. I think that if you have a disease, this is returning to and of course there is a lot of physiological responses you can have to these things. Some are natural and not of a. I mean, we all get stressed now and then, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily are in bad welfare. It is when they are reaching down to a secondary or maybe a tertiary response that it's starting to cause problems. So one of the things that you may think is that if the fish is growing bad, or it's a clear sign that the welfare is not good. If they are bad at handling a secondary stressor, for instance, that is also a sign of bad welfare, in my opinion. So you can measure all these things here, but I think the real important effect is what you see. Yeah, if you get the effects down to the tertiary level, it's more of a concern, I think. So today, So how are they able to reach this low level of lice in the farms in Norway? Traditionally, there has been medicines that has been the main tool, and I think that if we didn't have this medicine in the beginning, aquaculture will never be what it was. The medicine has been so important, not only in Norway, but in Europe and North America and in Chile and everywhere you go. Salmon needs, you have been relied on good anti-sea lice medical medicine. And then there are some other tools that are used quite a bit. Cleaner fish has been used. They use grass or other fish to feed off the lice from the fish. A little bit debated strategy. Of course, vaccine has had a huge impact for other disease, and a sea lice vaccine would be perfect. We are not there yet. Functional feed, there is a range of functional feed that has been tested. Also a little bit debated on how good they are. Breeding has been tried out quite a bit, but it's really quite uncertain if this is something that will solve it. But at least traditional breeding, I don't think will be good enough, but maybe we can make gene-modified salmon. That would be far more efficient. There is a lot of technical devices, anti-infection cages, if you like, or they are thinking about using enclosed system, completely enclosed system where you can filter seawater from lice larvae and avoid infection. I'm not sure how well that will work in the future either. There is some aspects. And then, of course, there is the non-medical treatment fields, including flushing, brushing, using heated water, use fresh water, develop lasers to shoot off lice of the fish, and there is a number of things that has been tested there, more or less successfully. But flushing, brushing, heat water, fresh water, and lasers are at least commercially available today, and in combination that are used by the farms. This is an old figure, but it tells a story. And the black line here is the amount of salmon produced in Norway from 2000 to 2019. And the red line is the amount of salmon that are treated with medical medicine against sea lice. So up to around 2007, we were treating every kilo of salmon we produced at one time with medicine. So around 2007, something happened where these two curves deviated totally, and you were suddenly treating almost 8.5 times more salmon than you were producing. So the efficacy of the medicine went down, and you had to treat more and more. That was the response. And suddenly you stopped treating almost with medicine, and that's when the medicine were kind of overused and not working properly. But we didn't stop treating salmon. So when the medicine usage went down, the amount of non-medical treatment went up again, and we are treating more than ever, basically. But the proportion of medical treatment has dropped a lot. So the first medical treatments were introduced in around 1980 in Norway, a little bit before that. And around 10 years later, there was resistance. But luckily, they started to use hydrogen peroxide, and they had some new medicine coming also in that time. And even more new medicine and slice were introduced in 1999 as the first really, and I would say only really efficient in feed treatment. So you had basically a pill for the sea lice. This is very simple. And here, and then you also had several other medicine. You had this chitin inhibitors, which are growth inhibitors for lice. They are controversial in terms of the side effects, so they haven't been used that a lot. But then you saw on the curve something happened around 2007, 2008. And you had the resistance to slice, and you had resistance to the terpenes, and you had resistance to hydrogen peroxide, and you had the resistance to the combination of these things. So by 2012-13, they were treating more than ever with medicine, but the effect was very bad. They were encouraged to use cleaner fish all the time, and it's still a part of the treatment regime. But the switch came around 2016-17 when the non-medical treatment were developed and introduced heavily. So because of this heavy resistancy, let's say sledgehammer that hit the industry, people decided, no, we will stop using medicine. We will do something different. We will do this non-medical treatment and use this handling-based strategy. We can come back to how smart that was shortly, but that was the decision. So the non-medical treatment is a totally changed how fish are treated a lot. There are large operations. You basically have to take the fish out of the cage into a boat, which is a delousing machine, using one of the several type of treatment I told you, going through this machine and then going back again into the net pan. So you crow the fish in the net pan, and you use pumps to pump the fish out of the pan into the machine, where you expose them either to heated water, flushing or brushing, or fresh water, or sometimes a combination of this. If you want to use fresh water, you probably need to have an efficient treatment. You may need to store the fish there for maybe up to 20 hours. 4 hours also have some effect, but of course, there is a huge demand of handling capacity in this situation. And that means they have developed this tremendously huge delousing machine. This is the largest delousing machine so far. This is a ship about 100 meters long, and it can pump hundreds of tons of salmon from the cage into the system and back again per hour. So, yeah. You can see that there's another industry growing up beside the farming industry that relies on plenty of lice on the fish, of course, because we have these expensive boats. This handling is a significant issue, and this is where the welfare hit the fish really hard, I think, because all this treatment in the beginning, I won't talk about how these machines were performing in the beginning, but we are talking about how they're performing now. They have been modified a lot, so they are much better than they were, but they are still not good. So of course, if you want to flush off the lice of the fish, you need to use quite some power. I don't know if any one of you, I know Marina has handled lice on the salmon, but they can stick quite tight to the fish. It means that you need some force to wash them off. And this is, if you want to flush to get the lice off, you will also flush some of the mucus, the scales, and other things off the fish. And if you want to take these attaching stains that are anchored by the frontal filament, you have to flush off the scales of the fish. Meaning that this type of damage you will actually see, and it can get much worse. You can get really big sores of these things, and it is, of course, problematic for those. One of the advantages with the medical treatment is that they are very efficacious and they kill the lice. Medicine kills the lice when we treat them, when we have a working medicine. The non-medical treatment will not kill the lice, they will just immobilize them or flush them off the fish. And they may only work on the mobile stages. Of course, the problem with the medical treatment is that you always get resistance, I don't think there is any medicine hardly developed in either to man or animal that you won't get resistance towards, and that apply also to the fish medicine, of course. So that's a big problem. Here you have a lot of handling. When you do the bar treatment of the fish today, there will be some handling of the fish. But if you do in-feed treatment, there is no handling of the fish. So it's a very mild, let's say, cure in a way. So what are the side effects to these mechanical approaches there? Try to look a little bit into that, and particularly the most frequently used treatment is thermal treatment. And the idea here is that you expose the fish for heated water, normally up to 34 degrees for 30 seconds. And this will knock off the lice of the fish, basically. Most of the lice that are mobile will fall off the fish. You have to move all the fish from the cage into the boat and back again. So there is a lot of handling involved there. On the plus side, of course, this is a clean treatment. There is no release of chemicals or anything. But again, there are some issues, of course. You will only take the mobile lice, and if you're not filtering out the lice from the cleaning or the delouser, put them back in the sea, they will wake up again and be able to infect the new host again. But of course, salmon are happy in 15 degrees or maybe 18 degrees water. What about 34 degrees? There is a study, I mean, the thermal reception in humans are well studied, and you know how this is working. And you know, for humans, you will feel pain if you are exposed to 44 degrees. That's when the TRPV channels are starting to fire, and you will feel pain if you put your hand in a 44 degree water. In average, some will feel it a little bit earlier or a little bit later. There is a study indicating something for rainbow trout that the trigger is around 28 degrees when you will start to fire this possible pain receptor at 28 degrees. We don't know how this is for salmon yet, but that should definitely be sorted out. So what are the effects? So here we have put salmon into 34 degree water. They are going quite crazy to be. They just plug them into the water and they will go bananas. This is 1.4 or 2 kilo salmon, I think. And there is a lot of force in this escape behavior. So obviously they are feeling something when they are exposed to this warm water, and most likely this is a pain response. That's at least my hypothesis, and I think it's clearly. And if the fish are able to hit something when they do this crazy movement, you will have that. So there are some studies again. I said they're looking into this, and this crashing behavior, that was what you saw in the video. They're going crazy, and you see that if these are smaller fish, I think 1.4 kilo. They have a stronger response than the larger fish that are this was about 4 kilo. But when you get to 30, for this one, already at 27, they're starting to have a large fraction of the fish. Showing this after 5 seconds and after 25 seconds after exposure. And at 33 degrees, all of the fish basically are going crazy in this heat exposure. So the exposure time is 30 seconds and then back again into the cold. And if you go, below 28 degrees for the heated water, you have very little impact with the lice. Very little of the lice will actually fall. So you need to go higher, although the delta, the difference between the storage temperature and the treatment temperature, seems to be of importance there. But you have, it seems that there is you have to reach around 28 degrees to get a clear, good effect. But yeah. But when you look at the possible histological damage of this exposure, it wasn't that really bad. Even at skin at 3 degrees. So these are all the small fish that was taken a sample of. There are some for the eye damage. But you see that even with the control fish or the fish that just was handling the same way as the exposure fish, this non-treatment control was just moved in the same way as the treated fish. There are also some damage there. So it looks like an important thing here is the handling. There's also been a study looking at mortality, and there is mortality involved in this, and the temperature is a risk factor for these things. There is a little bit variation in the different studies conducted there, but it's only a limited number of fish that are used, so the variation is kind of big. But definitely you can have mortality and maybe up to 10% mortality, and more mortality in warmer water. But also, here you see there is no mortality in the control. That was been handled. So we are closing in here on the end. There are a couple. This is one study that tried to compare these different non-medical treatment methods, and they found that freshwater treatment is the most efficient method, and it's also the method causing the lowest degree of welfare issues. And they also combined freshwater with warm water and mechanical treatment, and they were able to enhance the efficacy. If you ask those producers of these big well boats, they say that they have they can remove about 90 to 95% of the lice of the fish. But that's a combination of all things they do, from crowding the fish, pumping the fish through this machine and back again. And we have that. But maybe the most important finding in this study is that the fish that were exposed for 34 degrees for 30 seconds, they had actually a reduced growth rate and a lower condition factor. So if you remember that those items in the fish welfare score, or the physiological response, this is a real effect. I mean, that is concerning. So you can have that. One of the important things here is that the handling is a major part of the story. And if you're thinking of delousing efficiency only, the rougher you handle the fish, the more efficient delousing you will have. And that's, of course, a paradigm that is not working right by doing that. So if you look at the risk of mortality along the Norwegian coast in different production zones, you see that there is a high risk here in the west coast, and then it's decreasing in north and south of that. And if you look at the map for the traffic light system, there is a connection here, of course, between the color of the production zone and the amount of dead fish. I'm not saying that all the dead fish are because of the lice, but it accounts for an important part of it, probably. And of course, when you treat the fish heavily by these things, and they are stressed, and they may have some underlying disease, the risk for mortality will just increase, of course. So, in my view, there is a link for some of these underlying disease that when you do all this handling of the fish, you will increase the chance of mortality and we are compromising at least the fish welfare by the handling here. That is kind of opening a door that was closed before. That is important. And it's raised also a couple of questions. So today, Norwegian aquaculture, they are the environmental impact of lice means that you have to treat healthy fish to get rid of the lice. Or treating the fish at low levels to achieve this. And when you see up the consequences, you can ask: Is this right? Is this the right way to handle this? And how can this be solved? I don't have the answer for that, but we can discuss this on Friday at least, or on Thursday on the meeting then. So that was what I had on mind. So thank you for your attention. Any questions?